out to Socrates. Socrates still trying to get the opening. Oh, Socrates! Whoa!
And there it is. The crazy gang have beaten the Culture Club.
Maggie Thatcher, can you hear me? Maggie Thatcher, your boys took a hell of a beating. Your boys took a hell of a beating.
1979-80 revisited. We've got the big match, or the big match revisited, whichever slant you want to take on this, from the following day from these games that took place on the 24th of November 1979. December is looming. It's the second part of what will be an absolutely rambling odyssey of games between Liverpool and Arsenal throughout this campaign. Liverpool at Highbury, the two teams. We've got the comforting Leicester chapter as referee, Dave, from South Devon.
It's sort of a cross between Steve Martin and Sven-Goran Eriksson, isn't it, something?
Surely born grey as well. Absolutely, yeah. A refereeing Steve Martin, without a shadow of a doubt. An unsurprising Arsenal side, I think we could say, although there is no Liam Brady. He's out injured at the minute, which means the captain's armband for the first time is handed to David O'Leary. It's Pat Jennings, John Devine. No Pat to Rice at this point in time. He's injured as well. Sammy Nelson, Brian Talbot, David O'Leary were number 5, Willie Young, Steve Gatting, the talented Gatting boy, the most talented of the Gatting boys, maybe, arguably, not really, but someone who does very well for himself though. Alan Sunderland, Frank Stapleton, David Price, Graham Ricks, John Hollins on the bench. For Liverpool, it is no surprises at all. Ray Clements, Phil Neill, Alan Kennedy, Phil Thompson, Ray Kennedy. We've got Alan Hansen, Kenny Dalglish, Jimmy Case, David Johnson, Terry McDermott, Graham Souness, and it's Steve Highway on duty in the number 12 shirt this day. Phil Thompson as captain, having captained England less than 48 hours earlier at Wembley, Dave. 17 out of the 24. I think Brian Moore states are full internationals. We've got 3 players in the Liverpool side who are on duty for England at Wembley less than 48 hours earlier. Alan Sunderland for Arsenal is returning after missing the 4 previous games of a hamstring injury. Liverpool haven't won at Highbury since the mid-1970s. It's, for Arsenal, they've got a point to prove from Wembley and the chastening they got in the Charity Shield on a lovely sunny August day. Late November now, the weather's turned. It's a chance for Arsenal here, Dave.
It is. I mean, this certainly doesn't turn out to be a game like the Charity Shield, unfortunately. But it does start out in very promising form as they run out at Arsenal with the red shirts and the white sleeves. And they're virtually all wearing long white sleeves. It seems right for Arsenal. It's the proper Arsenal look. It's good to see that Sammy Nelson has recovered from the traumas of the Charity Shield to form part of the Arsenal team. There's a fella waiting at the top of the tunnel with a very dodgy tash and a slightly more dodgy suede jacket who's clapping him out onto the field. It looks like he's going to sell him a hooky TV set or something at the end of the game. I don't know where he's come from. Must be the security from the 1970s. But all is set fair for a game that never quite really catches fire, does it? Unlike Terry Neill, who we see very early on, quite fag on the Arsenal bench.
He is. Actually, yeah, he is indulgent on the bench, whether that's his nerves, whatever that is. I didn't even know that Terry Neill was a smoker until I saw this. But there he is, very much kind of like on the tab. It's a goalless draw, Dave. It's the first time we are given a feature match that is a goalless draw. But there are incidents among this game. 3 times Liverpool could feasibly score, and Frank Stapleton is a thorn in the Liverpool defence throughout.
Every time Arsenal get forward or anything good that Arsenal do involves Frank Stapleton, right from the start right through to the end. He's all over the place in this game, but unfortunately his finishing has deserted him for the afternoon. I mean, to be fair, it's a 0-0 draw, but there could easily be 2 or 3 goals for both sides. I mean, they are missing chances, and there's a couple of saves as well. It doesn't flow in the way that Charity Shield. It's interesting, what television does to the picture. I mean, going back to that Charity Shield, of course, Wembley. Everybody always talks about the wide open spaces of Wembley and all of that. I mean, it does look such a big pitch, and then you look, whenever you saw Highbury on television, it looked tiny. The pitch always looked really small, and there doesn't ever seem to be any room to do anything. I mean, I don't know what the relative dimensions were, but it just seems everything is so cramped and sort of hemmed in, really. But Liverpool don't quite get going but they are the ones that probably have the better of the play, I think, over the course of the 90 minutes. And yeah, they should score. Well, not they should score. They almost score rather early on when Phil Neill sets Terry McDermott away down the right, and he looks up, and there's nobody in the box, so he just has a crack and he shoots across Jennings, really tight angle, and it thuds into the post and comes out. I mean, if it had gone in, it would have been an absolutely outstanding goal. But that kind of sets the tone for the day, because nothing's going to go in. That's the game.
That is absolutely the game. Ray Clements is kept very, very busy, especially in that first half. He pulls off a save from Stapleton. There's a header that's high and wide from a divine cross. There's the Phil Neill error that tees up Stapleton, and that probably that one more than any is the one that you think that's the goal that got away for Arsenal. There's one that Dalglish puts wide, and that's pretty much the story of the first half. It's a cluster of what might have been, Dave.
It is, yeah. I mean, that Kenny Dalglish one. I mean, it's a really good opportunity, and it's a poor first touch. Which how many times did you say that about Kenny Dalglish? Of course, the entire season. Never mind a game, And Ray Kennedy's to his left going nuts that he didn't get a pass from him to score himself. But it is. It's a nearly game, and whether some of that is to do with the not just England playing on the Thursday night, but obviously Dalglish would have played for Scotland on the Wednesday, and a lot of the players would have played international football and got back sort of late on the Thursday to their clubs anyway. The England players not till the Friday, so it's maybe that's had an impact on it. But everybody just seems to be slightly off their game. The touch isn't quite there right the way through the two teams. So we get to half time at 0-0. Then Brian Moore talks about a psychedelic sunset at half time. He's been on the mushrooms again, Brian Moore, after his previous week.
He isn't calling anyone, and he's never mistaken Clements and Jennings for kippers on this occasion.
That's fair. No, that is a good point.
It is. He does go into it. He'd been great on the golf, Brian Moore, wouldn't he? With Peter Allison doing all that kind of like the incidentals, there's bird in the tree and all that type of stuff. He's clearly kind of like enjoying a bit of, he's watching around with Alice and things like that and trying to implement some of that into his commentaries. Second half, Clements, Stapleton must have been absolutely fuming coming off the pitch in this one. Clements denies him again early second half. He makes fine save from Brian Talbot, low to his left. There is a lot of pressure that Liverpool are under, but they don't crack. There's the Divine takes a shot that goes through a sea of legs that Clement sees late, and he again smothers it. There's that Dalglish miss when the ball's caught under him from a Souness cross. Again another what could have, should have been. There's a Paul Price volley over the crossbar from a Stapleton cross. Brave save from Clements at the feet of Talbot. Rick's free ball. And then there's Jennings at the other end, pulls off a save from Johnson. A really fine weaving run from Jimmy Case on the right hand side. Nelson puts one just wide, dry from distance. There are chances. This is a goalless draw, but it's not an uneventful goalless draw. It's not got the charm and the skill and the finishing touches of the Charity Shield by any means of the imagination. It's a dull Saturday afternoon, late November, so you've not got that sunshine bathed on it. But from an Arsenal point of view, it's possibly the prototype that they will take into, should we say there's 4 games looming later in the season, or 5 if you want to add the league game that's played between the two at Anfield later as that season. But it's maybe something that Terry Neill can take something from this game that he might be able to implement later in the season.
It's a better second half as well from Arsenal. They're a bit more. They have a few more chances, but this is very much having given Liverpool all that space at Wembley in the Charity Shield. They're not having any space in this one. I mean, they're being chased down all the while. There's very little room for anybody to do anything. It's a much more. Arsenal are all over you. It's like they're throwing a blanket over you kind of thing and not giving anybody any real opportunities. Except you say that run from Jimmy Case, which is a terrific run, and Jennings saves with his legs. Jennings always a leg-conscious goalkeeper,
yes,
whatever
absolutely.
that means.
For a goalkeeper that was always said had hands like shovels, he used his what was his legs like? Tree stumps. Pat Jennings' legs like tree stumps and hands like shovels.
And then we see a bit more of Pat Jennings last one, where the game should be decided. I mean, we've spoken earlier about a penalty in a previous paragraph, the Paul Mariner penalty against Ipswich against Southampton. Kenny Dalglish accelerates onto a pass, and he's pulled down in the box by David O'Leary, I think it is. And the ball runs through, and then Pat Jennings comes and he dribbles around Jimmy Case in his own penalty area to get the ball away. So, I mean, that's got everything. I mean, it should be a penalty to Liverpool, but
it absolutely has got everything, that passage of play. On a day when John Robertson's been handed a penalty that was, I think, on the edge of the penalty area, Paul Mariner's won a bit of a soft one at Portman Road. Of all the penalties that are caught on camera, or the penalty shouts or incidents that are caught on camera, O'Leary goes through Dalglish on the left-hand side of it, goes through the player, doesn't touch the ball, but Leicester chapters having none of it, Dave. But there's no surrounding the referee. There's no, there might be a kind of like an incredulous look, a thump of the turf before getting back up, and on with the play. But there's absolutely no scrum around the referee in terms of his short shrift of this penalty shout.
No, there's no histrionics. It's a very quiet sort of, oh well, he hasn't given it, we'll get on with it then, shall we? Which particular, I mean, Liverpool, Arsenal, 0-0, not very many minutes to go. I mean, nowadays, my God, you'd be waiting for about 10 minutes to restart the game, wouldn't you? But then it was, oh well, that's life. We'll carry on with the game.
No 2 hours of post-match coverage and in-depth analysis for the next 3 days over this abomination of an incident. Phil Thompson, we've already mentioned Phil Thompson's interview after the match. An interesting one aside for this as well is that the big match tipped up, and they tip up on the Friday at Highbury to set up their cameras, and they are the tech fellas are attaching microphones to the netting and the goal posts, and Terry Neill clocks this, and he's going over and saying, "You can't do. What are you doing?" So ITV are wanting the sound of kind of like, if the post is thudded, as would be the case, Terry McDermott, they're wanting the sound of the post to come across. They're wanting the ball hitting the net, which would not happen anyway in this game, to add to the coverage. Terry Neill's kind of like having none of it. He tells them, you're not doing that. You can't do that. He comes back into Highbury on the Saturday to find, well, they have actually done that, and so he has to kind of like get them to take them down. He kicks off and gets them to take them down. So this row, kind of rumbles on into the papers the next day. But yeah, so it's that. It's the creeping advance of television. Terry Neill's not having any of it, Dave.
It's no wonder he had to start smoking.
He starts smoking, and it's also noticeable that there is no one speaking on behalf of Arsenal after the game as well. Hence this more in-depth interview with Phil Thompson as the visiting captain, Dave.
Yes, the Alex Ferguson revenge. We won't talk to anybody. Not that I think anybody from Arsenal would have had much to say. It's much better to listen to Phil Thompson, who has wisely got rid of his Charity Shield perm by now, which is a blessing for us all. But I mean, he talks about obviously being the England captain for the first time in midweek. But as you mentioned before, he talks a lot about the teams that they've played this season, and Tottenham being the one that has impressed him the most in a game the week before. I mean, he obviously talks about the midfielders that they've got. So, I mean, one of the things that he points out, which in the light of the game that's about to follow, is extraordinary. He talks about what a great offside trap Tottenham have got. This will be exposed at Goodison Park within the next few moments, but but it doesn't go anything in court as well. But it was an interesting interview actually, and the fact that there's nobody from Arsenal gives us that extra few minutes with Phil Thompson, who tells us that Kenny Dalglish is adamant that he was hacked down by David O'Leary for the penalty. It should have been a penalty. Yeah,
but David O'Leary's take is very, very different apparently, although he's not allowed on camera to say so. Terry Neill's clearly say no. After the microphone's on my net, you're having none of it. As mentioned, Goodison Park, Tottenham make the Merseyside versus North London double on this particular day. Again, a bit like Southampton going to East Anglia 2 weeks run. Tottenham are back on Merseyside, having been at Anfield the previous week. They've lost 2-1 at Anfield the previous weekend. A game that didn't take place in front of the TV cameras, surprisingly enough, given that Liverpool put 7 past Tottenham the previous week. You would have thought that BBC or ITV would have kind of like been very eager to see what comes next. That wasn't the case, though. Liverpool won that one 2-1. A game that was marred in certain match reports by Tottenham's incessant use of the offside trap. That was frustrating supporters as viewers as a concept. And Tottenham do exactly the same thing at Goodison Park, but to less effect, shall we say. There is a string of opportunities for Everton. Andy King in particular, Brian Kidd on a couple of occasions, but Andy King in particular, Trevor Ross, another, springs this offside trap again and again and again and again.
It's ridiculous. I mean, these are the highlights. So I mean, in the highlights, very brief highlights at that, we see I think 4 examples of it in the first half. I mean, there's one where it's so badly done. I mean, Ace Hartford plays a pass through. It's so badly done that Emilio Alexic in the Spurs goal, he's 40 yards off his line, dives at the feet of the attacker, catches to get hold of the ball, and you book for own ball. I mean, that's the state at which. Then there's another one where I think it's Trevor Ross who beats the offside. Terry Yoder's standing there with his hand in the air after the Everton fella has run past him. I mean, it's just an absolute shambles. Clearly, at half time, Keith Birkinger says, "Right, well, we're not doing that anymore." And we hardly get any footage in the second half at all because obviously all got quiet.
Well, it's either that or they've tightened it up and they're actually kind of like doing it properly. And Andy King has caused offside every single time. It is interesting that he is the second half and it's just one shot of Glenn Hoddle putting one just wide, and then it abruptly ends, and that is it.
That's it.
It ends in a surprisingly somewhat ends in a 1-1 draw. Everton, spring that offside trap so many times, but they can't take advantage of it. Alexic, following the Peter Barota template of the previous weekend, is very much he's very much on for kind of like going on manoeuvres outside of his own penalty area in a prototype Bruce Grobbelaar type of way. There's all it's Latchford who puts Everton 1-0 up. It's another incident where the offside trap fails, and great week for Latchford, the England recall, although he doesn't get anywhere near starting lineup or place on the bench. But he's back in the goals. He's back in the England squad. Trevor Ross puts one just over. That's the turning point. Everton should get a second goal and they don't, and it's Chris Jones who gets the equaliser. Your mate Jerry Armstrong, Dave, with the cross from the right, and very much against the run of play. But Tottenham have mugged Everton off for a point there. I
mean, it should be 4-0 by that stage. I mean, Everton have had so many, not just chances, but I mean golden chances. They've just. This offside trap has completely failed for Tottenham. It's been 1-on-1 2 or 3 times, and great opportunities. Andy King misses a sitter. Trevor Ross slices one over when he's beaten the offside trap. It is a shambles from Spurs for that first half an hour, but they somehow hang in there, and then nice cross from Jerry Armstrong, and Chris Jones is unmarked to head in, and that's all we see because obviously nothing happens in the second half. 1-1 draw.
An accord must be reached in that second half where it's like, let's very Italian Serie A type of thing. We'll settle for a point each, lads. That'll do. Everyone, let's go home. FA Cup first round day as well, Dave. On this particular weekend, standout results. Altrincham flying high in the Alliance have beaten 92nd placed Football League outfit Crewe Alexandra 3-0 at Moss Lane. 1953 FA Cup winners Blackpool held to a 1-1 draw at home by Wigan Athletic. That will go to a Springfield Park replay. Barking have defeated Oxford United 1-0. So Altrincham and Barking are the two teams that have taken Football League scalps in the first round. There's replays for others. You've also got joining Altrincham and Barking into the second round from the non-league ranks, having won in all non-league clashes. We've got Yeovil Town, Harlow Town, Cheshire, Slough Town, Stafford Rangers and Croydon. Morecambe have got themselves a replay at Rotherham United, and there was a wild 3-3 draw between Northwich Victoria and Nuneaton, Dave, which will go to a replay. Any standouts there from the first round of the FA Cup? None of which made it to the television screens.
Stafford Rangers always had a great reputation that period of time. Again, sort of this area, it's always used to see them. But as we've covered in one of the longer episodes in this, you got a feel for Altrincham. I mean, they're constantly doing well in the non-leagues, always seeming to get into the first, second, third rounds of the FA Cup, and then banging their heads against this brick wall of re-election at the Cafe Royal for 4 or 5 years, before eventually automatic promotion came in, at which point Altrincham had stopped being quite such a good team. I mean, that's hard work, isn't it?
It is indeed. We will keep an eye on the FA Cup as we go along, and and we'll be doing plenty of modules and paragraphs on the games that are available to us from the third round onwards. A quick dip into the second division, Dave. Notts County and Chelsea. Chelsea are on the big match again at this point in time. It seems to be either weeks and weeks and weeks of QPR or weeks and weeks of Chelsea when it comes to the second division and Brian Moore and the big match. The interesting facet of two Yugoslavian goalkeepers in this one, Dave.
Two eccentric Yugoslavian goalkeepers. I think we can say we've already spoken of Peter Brota, but Notts County, Vrimovic is in the Notts County goal, and I mean he comes up with an extraordinary moment after fairly early on. There's a ball forward from Chelsea over the top, and I can only assume he thinks it's offside because he comes running outside his box and just catches the ball 25 yards out, and suddenly finds himself booked and given away a free kick. And to add insult to injury, Britain fires it through the wall for 1-0. Hugh Johns. Oh, what a terrible wall that was.
Yeah, Hugh Johns is just not on for it, is it? This is the great thing about the commentators at this point in time as well. They're not shy of kind of like pulling teams and players up for poor football. And it's great, especially brilliant when they kind of like they'll turn around next to like in the studio to talk about the people, and they've just said you've served some right awful football up there, lads. But by the way, Jeff Hurst, what do you think about? It's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. Fillery's doing great things again for Chelsea at this point in time. He's showing really promising. There's a wonderful. I'm not sure who it was actually. The Notts County number 5. There's a kind of like chance for Fillery, and he kind of like he swerves to the left, and the Notts County defender just kind of like falls over to his left to Fillery's right, and there's like a yard between the two of them though, and it's kind of Sammy Nelson-esque in that respect. Back at Wembley in the Charity Shield, it's an absolute work of art. You find the footage for this, and it is the way that the Notts County number 5 just kind of like falls away. It's an inexplicable thing. Yeah, the handling outside the area. There's no yellow card for the goalkeeper on this occasion, unlike Alex Alexic at Goodison Park for Tottenham. Chelsea are one of Ian Britton. The resultant free kick. This is the great thing about these. There's a couple of mad incidents at both ends. Well, the same end of the pitch, but two different goalkeepers provoke these free kicks to be given, and they're both punished. The wonderfully esoteric moments that the goalkeepers indulge in, thinking, well, we've saved a goal here, and then next thing is the ball's flying into the back of the net for the resultant free kick. It's the one that goes straight through the wall. Barota, makes a decent save. Paul Hooks, however, puts the follow up in for 1-1. From a McCulloch cross. It's an interesting day for McCulloch from a Notts County point of view, because and we'll come to it, but at 2-2 there's ample opportunities for Notts County to put this one out of reach of Chelsea, yet they do not do it. Clive Walker punishes, makes it 2-1, springs another offside trap. Ron Harris, midfield visionary now, playmaker, plays a gorgeous through ball for Clive Walker to go on and score. It's some kind of bizarre parallel universe that we've suddenly tripped into, Dave. It's perceptive. It's incredible. It's Ron Harris.
He's calling Ron Harris. He should have been Glenn Hoddle 20 years earlier.
Absolutely. Walker dispatches it into the bottom left-hand corner. Or is it the bottom right-hand corner? We just can't tell. It depends who's writing the article, I think. Who's doing the commentary. Half time's reached. It's a game that's had absolutely everything, Dave. And again, it's kind of putting the feature match to shame.
It is. I mean, it is. There's drama and all sorts, and it continues into the second half. I mean, Chivers loses the ball to Ian McCulloch, and Peter Brota comes charging out of his box and absolutely totals it on the 22, 23 yards out. There's a free kick and there's a booking. But for some reason, the Notts County players are absolutely adamant that it's a penalty. I mean, it's miles outside the box. It's 2 or 3 yards outside the box, clearly outside the box. And two of them managed to get themselves booked for dissent.
Masson and Richards, get themselves into the book on the back of this.
And the free kick ends up being taken in exactly the same place as Chelsea scored from in the first half. And O'Brien chips it over the wall, and it's 2-2.
So, top corner, yeah.
Then we come to the moment at which Ian McCulloch decided to give up the football and concentrate on Echo and the Bunnymen, because I mean, there's a terrible backpass from Wilkins. Barota chases after it, completely loses control of it and throws it basically to McCulloch's feet, who then chips it over an open goal, beating the turf in frustration. And there's another chance for County. A dismal back pass from Mickey Droy that puts Mayer in.
Mickey Droy is having a nightmare in that second half.
And Hugh Johns, after Mayer's put it away, his manager won't like that. No, he won't. Yeah.
Absolutely won't. Absolutely won't. Yeah, McCulloch misses another. It's a trio of chances for Notts County to put the ball in the back of the net that they absolutely spur, and they are punished for it. Clive Walker again. Frost, Britton. Walker back of the net. It's a result that puts Chelsea up to second. I mean, the previous week, Jeff Hurst had said that his team had played for 10 minutes against Charlton. That mad 10 minutes at the 50th to the 60th minute of the second half, during the second half, where they get 3 goals, and Charlton have what was Brian Moore called Charlton that day. It was strong but
unimpressive.
The strong but unimpressive Charlton were mugged off. They've kind of done it again here, Chelsea. This is all kind of like the luck is very much in Chelsea's court here at the minute. Of all the teams you think should be nailed on for promotion at this point, Chelsea just seem to have it all fallen into their lap.
I mean, I suppose on the flip side of that, you can ultimately see why they didn't get up, because while they are quite good going forward, defensively they're an absolute shambles.
They are shambles defensively.
Getting goals in left, right, and centre, and when the goals do dry up, then you're going to be in big trouble. I mean, they don't look a particularly impressive team in that sense. Mistakes at the back, the goalkeeper is all over the place. I mean, it's Jeff Hurst. I think he can see the writing on the wall. He can see what's coming. But with Chelsea having no money at that stage, I mean, he's broadly powerless to do a great deal about it, really, I suppose.
Absolutely is. Yeah, but I think a fine cluster of games that has taken us through subsection 1.10 here across these paragraphs. A rundown of the First Division results. We've seen the Liverpool draw 0-0 at Arsenal. That's one of 3 goalless draws. Aston Villa leads. Wolves West Brom, Dave. The derby match. Your derby match has ended in a goalless draw in front of 32,564 at Molyneux. Also, Crystal Palace Coventry. So there's the 4 goalless draws in the First Division on this particular Saturday. We've had Bristol City picking up a 1-0 win against Manchester City. So Romark's back in the room. He's back from his holidays. He's brought back his wicker donkey and his straw hat, and he's got back onto the Malcolm Allison voodoo doll with the pins and all that type of stuff. Derby, as mentioned, 4-1 winners against Nottingham Forest. Everton, 1-1 draw against Tottenham. Ipswich, 3-1 winners against Southampton. Manchester United have stuck 5 past Norwich, Dave, and it's put them top of the table. 3 up at half-time. Macari, Moran, Coppell. 2 goals from Joe Jordan in the second half. We don't know whether he's wounded anyone this week. There is no mention of this. I'll have to look further into that. Middlesbrough 1, Brighton 1, and Stoke have defeated a woeful Brighton 1-0 with a late goal in the first half from O'Callaghan. It's Manchester United now top because of Liverpool's goalless draw. Man United on 23, Liverpool 22 with a game in hand. Crystal Palace still knocking around on 21, Arsenal on 19, as are Nottingham Forest and Middlesbrough and Tottenham. Cluster of teams. So 4 points split in the top 7. I think we have that as. So 17 games in for the vast majority. That's still pretty good going. Bolton marooned at the bottom now, 5 points adrift of safety on 9 points. It's Brighton on 10. We've got Ipswich still in the bottom 3 on 14, on goal average behind Derby. And then on 15, it's Leeds, Stoke and Everton. All very tight apart from for Bolton at the bottom there, Dave.
It is. I mean, Bolton obviously struggling majorly, but having seen Ipswich and Derby in good nick today, you'd think that they'd be pulling away. So there's going to be a few worried teams in amongst that bottom half of the division.
Absolutely. Big news in the second division, Dave. At the 17th time of asking, Burnley have finally got themselves a league win. 5-3 at home to Cambridge United. The 3-3 with less than 5 minutes to go, though. They did push the envelope somewhat of this. Late goals from James and Tate got them over finally got them a win. Fulham 0, Watford 0, Leicester 2, Wrexham 0, Luton 2, Birmingham City 3, Notts County 2, Chelsea 3 as mentioned. Shrewsbury 2-0 winners at Oldham, 2-2 between Preston and Orient. QPR 4-0 winners at home to Charlton, more troubles for Charlton. Sunderland 3-2 winners at home to Bristol Rovers. Newcastle won 3-2 at Swansea, and West Ham have put 3 without ply past Cardiff. QPR top, the top 3 all on 23 points, Dave. QPR, Chelsea, Newcastle. It's Luton now out of the top 3. on 22, along with Leicester and Birmingham. The top 6 separated by 1 point. Birmingham City, West Ham on 20, are the closest after that at the foot of the table. Despite their win, Burnley's still propping the division up, 9 points, 3 behind Charlton and Bristol Rovers, who make up the bottom 3. Also on 12, it's Cambridge United. On 13, we've got Fulham, Watford and Shrewsbury. And on 14, it's Oldham. So still very tight at the bottom, Dave. Yeah, but a big day for Burnley there, Dave.
It is. We can only hope that Billy O'Rourke was in goal.
Yes.
Got a good day out of it at last.
A good day out of it.
Burnley career. Strong but unimpressive Charlton stuck in the bottom. That ought to be on the coat of arms, hadn't it? It ought to be in Latin on the badge. Strong but unimpressive.
If there's anyone who knows their Latin out there, please do let us know. Decipher that for us, and we'll emboss it onto Burnley 1979-81. Last headline from the second division. Jim Smith, the Birmingham City manager, makes a dramatic bid for Bolton's Frank Worthington. Smith dashes north for talks on a £150,000 transfer. Worthington is at odds with Bolton manager Ian Greaves. He's appeared for Bolton only 4 times so far this season, Dave. His summer stint in the NASL has caused friction between player and manager. Worthington refused to be substitute for the first team against Manchester City at the weekend, instead opting to play a full match for the reserves. Worthington, amenable to a transfer to Birmingham, would prefer a return to the NASL. Worthington and a potential move to Birmingham, Dave. Good one for Star Soccer if they pull that off.
That'll light up St Andrews certainly if that happens. Can see Frank Worthington playing there in front of the huge clock in the corner.
Absolutely, the huge clock in the corner. And what is a fine kit, to be fair to. It's an era of a fine Birmingham kit, the Adidas strip, very much like the Ipswich one. The 3 stripes and the huge trefoil. Those.
I mean, if you're Bolton Wanderers, in the name of God.
You're wanting points, you're wanting wins, he scored 24 for Bolton the previous season. What are you thinking, Ian Greaves? What are you thinking?
I'm thinking he's going to be getting a new job soon.
Yeah, Bolton do. Yeah, bottom of the table, let's sell the man who was top scorer the previous season. Sound judgment indeed. Only good things can be looming for Bolton across the remainder of they've not even reached the 1980s yet, but the 1980s must be a halcyon period for Bolton Wanderers if they can move on a Frank Worthington. Dave, thank you so much as our 1979-80 correspondent, the war zone that is. We look forward with bated breath to subsection module 1.11 coming soon as we move into December. All that leaves me to do is say thank you for listening, spread the word as ever, subscribe for more 1980s related insight and nonsense. This is the podcast where it's always the 1980s, except for the first 4 months of the 1979-80 season. Thank you and goodbye.